Thanks everybody for attending our Wednesday GeoSync Go webinar. This week we're going to look at some functionality from the GeoSync Go desktop, which is layer searching and filtering options. And we're really talking about map layer searching and filtering options. GeoSync Go Cloud service is a geospatial toolbox, so we need to always kind of keep that in mind, that this is a toolbox that that is designed to plug into a lot of the functions and work that you already do. The focus today is going to be on the desktop software, which runs on a Windows computer. We talk about search and filter. I guess the question is why would we need those tools, and what do they do for us? The first thing it does in searching and filtering, it helps us find information. The next thing we can think about is we might want to use search and filter tools in order to visually view a subset of our data. We have, we're going to look at this, we have all the public schools in the state of Kentucky, and we might visually only want to see those in a certain geographic area, or we might want to see only the schools that are middle schools, as an example. Also can help us with data analysis. We might want to use these tools also to create a custom report. We could filter down our data set to a specific, to a more filtered view, and then create an export for someone to use in Excel. Or we could also use this to create a number of custom layers. So we take a subset of our data and make a separate GeoSync Go layer from that. The types of map layers on the desktop that we can work with, GeoSync Go XML layers, which are either feature layers or data sets, which these can both be can be generated from our GeoSync Go workflow, where we design those in the workflow wizard, or they could also be data layers that we create with the export tool from, say, ArcGIS. So really these tools work with both of those types of layers. The other type of layer that we might have in the desktop, which are base layers we use for reference purposes. The search and filter options do not work against those SQL-based layers that are designated as base layers. It's only going to work with our feature layer, our XML layers. Search and filter tools, well, some things we already covered. It only works with feature layers. The tools are divided, really, that we'll look at are two different things. From the attribute tab, where we have a list of our feature attributes, you can use the find first or find next tool just to search through the data. That's the most basic search and search tool that's included in the desktop. The one we'll spend a little more time on is the search and filter from the search tab itself. And in that case, we can do things like we can set up a where statement. We can filter based on features that are on the screen. We can filter against data that only has linked media, which can really be helpful if I'm just trying to find all the features that I have photos linked to. Then I can filter that layer down, so I just get a list of the ones which valves do I have photos for, and which ones do I not have photos for. So that can be helpful. And then I also can create a filter polygon or a filter radius, and I can filter based on those options as well. The difference in when we say search and filter, as we get into this, there's a difference in there. There's a search button from the on the tab, and search is really a preview. You click search and you'll get a preview listing of the results of that particular search. The filter actually creates a new layer. So it takes the search criteria and then it creates a new map layer. It's a sort of temporary layer that only contains the selected record. So that provides a view that you can use. It's going to be fully interactive on the map, and then you can export that subset of data. It's a filtered set of data. The clear button on the tool will just restore back to the master layer, the source layer, with all the records. So if we look at some of the options here on this particular tool, the where statement an example of the where statement, we might be trying to search addresses, and we're looking for all the addresses that can't contain Darby, which would be Darby Road. So I could use that as a filter and set that up where I use the column address contains Darby, and then I would get all of the features that match that or have an attribute that matches that. The where statement can some of the options we can use to filter on that are starts with, ends with, contains, equal to, greater than, less than, and is empty. So you can take any column of data and then you can go through and look for different types of text that would match any of those criteria. The where statement can be used in conjunction with any of the spatial searches, such as you can use the where statement in conjunction with on screen. So we can say find all the address, all the features that have an address that contains Darby that's on the map screen, or address that contains Darby that's within a certain radius filter feature that we've created. From the spatial side, we can filter based on screen, which is features that are on the get only features that are within the extent of the current map view. We can create a filter polygon. We can either draw a polygon, or we can use an existing polygon and convert it over to a filter polygon. And what that does is that's going to select all features that intersect with that filter polygon. So and what that would mean for point data, if you have point features, it's going to have points that are inside the polygon. You can also do a filter radius where you can create a circle with a certain radius or certain diameter, and then again it'll select features that intersect with the filter circle. And you can set the radius in miles. And then the other spatial tool in that has linked media, which will allow that to filter records that actually have linked photos or documents associated with them. And linked media will actually work with the other filters. So on the spatial filters on screen, filter polygon and filter radius are unique. You can't combine those together as a search. And if you try to do that, it'll use whichever one it comes to first. So let's take a look at the demonstration on search and filter tools. I'm going to go to my desktop software, and we're going to start and work with a public schools layer. This is an export from ArcGIS of all the public schools in the state of Kentucky. All those schools are in place, and we can see a distribution, at least I'm not showing the whole state, but in this region we see a distribution of a lot of different schools. I can mouse over those and I can see different school names associated with those. So one of the first things I can do, I can look at the attribute list, and one of the ways that we could filter this or use some of the filter search tools would be, I've got this list of 1,300. I know 1,312 records. I'm looking for schools. I know the address was on College Street, but I don't know what city. So I could type in College Street, and I could use the find tool. This will find from the top, and now it's going through and finding any place that matches College Street. So I could use this tool to kind of work through the data, the 1,300 records, trying to match against one of these records, which is College Street. And if I keep hitting this button, it'll just kind of work me through the data, and it's showing me those records. So it's helping me just find those records, find next, all the way through the data. Once it gets to the last record, we work our way through, then it's going to say match not found, and then we're done. And if I need to go back to the top of the list, I can start that search back over and find the records. So again, if I were to find this particular record and then I go back to the map, then should be able to go ahead and zoom to that particular record, Webster County, College Street. So I can use this list and then go back to the map and find that location. So I'm going to reopen my, I'm going to reset my map, and I'm going to reopen the public schools layer again, so we come back to that. So that was the ability to use the find tool that's in the attribute window. That's the most basic search tool that we have. So we're back to public schools. What we can do is we'll go to our search option, which is our primary search tool, and then let's go ahead and look and see how we could use a where clause against this. So what I'd like to do is find all of the schools, all the middle schools that that are in my layer. Well, let's go back to our attributes for just a minute, and we can look and see our classification column in here kind of gives us an idea of what grade levels are at each individual school. So I'm really going to be looking for all those that have middle school. If it has middle in this particular field, then I want to select it, or I want to filter on that. I'm going to go back to my search. I'm going to do a contains, set my column to class of this, which is the classification. This is the name of the column. And then I'm going to use middle. Use the search option, which will give me a preview, and now I have a list of all of the schools that are middle schools in the state of Kentucky. I can go ahead and filter that, and that's going to produce a new layer for me. Once I filter that, you'll notice this red star shows up by the attribute list, and that's just letting me know that this is a subset or a filter of my full school data set. Let's go back and look at that on the screen, and now we've got fewer schools, and all the schools that we have here are primarily middle schools now in the region. So we have filtered based on middle school classification. Now the next thing I'd like to do is what I'd really like to do is not only get middle schools in this general area around Lexington. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and go back to our full school view. We can see all the schools. I'm going to create a filter, what we would call as a filter polygon, to help filter that geographically. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use the filter shapes, draw filter. I'm just going to actually draw a polygon around this particular area. I double click to close that, and then if I click close, this now becomes a filter polygon. You'll notice that it's got a heavy red outline, and it's got a fill in it that we can see through. Go back to my search option in here. Now I've still got I've got middle school. I want to look for middle schools, but I want to use the filter polygon, and now I can click search, and now I have a much smaller list, and we'll notice these are only in Fayette County because that's the area that I windowed in. So if I'm going to do the filter, we'll come back to our list here and then go to the map, and now we have created a much smaller filtered list of taking all the schools in the state of Kentucky. We filter those down to only middle schools inside this particular polygon. If I want to clear that filter, then I can come to the tools and clear filter boundaries. That will take the filter away. The layer is still set, so one of the things that I can do from this view, from my attribute view, I could then export this to both CSV so that I could use it in Excel, or I could actually create a new GeoSync Go layer if I wanted to of just these schools. And that would be nice if I wanted that subset, then it would be really easy for me to publish that out to a mobile device, or I could share that information with another user instead of all the schools. Now I've got a targeted set of schools that I'm working with. I can come back to my search tab, and if I click clear, then that's gonna filter. That's going to basically set everything back to the way it was. I now have all 1,300 of my schools back, and I'm ready to do a different search or query. Another way that I could do this is to work and ask the question, say I want only schools that are within, say, 5 miles from downtown Lexington, and we do this as the crow flies. We're not using driving distance in this case, but we do have another tool. If we set the center of Lexington in the middle of the screen, we can go back to our search filter. We have an option here for radius. I'm going to set that to 5 miles. Go back to my map, and then I'm going to apply a make filter radius, and that's going to draw a filter that's approximately 5 miles. Now, what this does, I need to set this in the center of the screen. So I want this to be the center of the screen. I'm going to use this zoom to. That's going to set that, and then I'm going to come back and do that filter radius one more time. And now that's going to set a 5-mile radius from the center point that I want to use. I can come back and use my same tool set. In this case, I really don't care about middle schools. I want all schools within that distance. I'm going to go ahead and do a search. I can look and see this is all the schools. They're all in Fayette County. That's a pretty good clue that it has been filtered. I'm going to click my filter button and go back to public schools. We'll see what we have on the map, and now we have only schools that are within that 5-mile radius. We can come in and look at that. And again, this is another way to select data, and this will work against any of the any feature layer that you have in place. And then from here, we could come back and export that data. We can analyze the data by from here and just work with this subset of information. I'm going to come back and clear this filter, and I want to take a look at another option, another way of creating a filter boundary that could be useful. Sometimes you want to select based on another polygon or another spatial layer that's available. So in this case, I'm going to turn on council districts in Fayette County. Move the map, have it redraw. So now I've got council districts on the screen. I'm going to turn my public school layer off so we can look at this base layer. If I select on this, I'll see these are actually city council districts in Fayette County. What I would like to do is I want to be able to search and only find either schools or actually have another layer called traffic signals in Lexington. I'd like to filter those based on what's inside this particular council boundary. So if I select the council boundary, then I can come to here and I have another tool that says Make Filter Boundary. I can select that, and now that converts that selected polygon into a filter boundary. Now I'm going to turn on my traffic signals layer. I have all the traffic signals in Fayette County, but I only want to find the ones that are inside this particular council district within this filter boundary. Go back to my search tool. I'm going to use the filter polygon, search, and here's the list, which is a much smaller list than all of the traffic signals. If I filter that, now I come back to the map and I only have those selected that actually fall within this particular boundary. And if I needed that list, then I could go back to my attributes. I could export that and provide that as a map layer or a list to that particular councilman to look at only the data that is impacted by his council district. Another option that we can also look at is related to, let's go back and clear our filter here. We're going to go back to our traffic signal data. I'm going to clear the filter boundary, and I'm going to select one of these traffic signals, and we're going to actually just go ahead and add a linked document to this. Doesn't matter what that is, but just so we have a document that's been linked to that. So now we have one of our traffic signals that actually has a linked photo or document associated with it. So we can come back to our map, and then let's see what would happen here. We're going to use our has linked media, and we'll do a search. And now we find, because that's the only traffic signal that actually has a photo linked to it, we can now select that or see that list. If we filter that, then our list of traffic signals is going to show the one signal that actually has a photo associated with it. That can be really helpful if I'm trying to figure out, particularly if I'm trying to document with photos and other scanned information for certain features that I have. It's often helpful to figure out which ones are missing, which ones do I not have a photo for. So this gives me a list of the ones that do have photos, and then from there I can go backwards and actually begin to isolate the list that I need to go out and work on, or I can figure out which set of features do I need to distribute to somebody because they want to look at the photos. So let's go back and we'll undo this, and we'll go ahead and clear. Come back to our map view. I'm going to turn off my base layer. And we'll take a look. We'll do this one more time. We can come in and actually work with, again, we'll turn on our traffic signals, and we'll do another filter search where we're going to go ahead and do communication method contains fiber. We'll do a search, and now we can see that that we only have the list of that has fiber communication method for our traffic signals. And then I'm going to come back here. I want to use a 1 mile radius in terms of the filter from the center of the screen. I'm going to go filter shape, make a filter radius. Actually, I need to reset the center of the screen. And then I'm going to do the filter radius again. And we can then go in and do a search, and this is going to be a 1 mile search of traffic signals that use fiber for communication. So I'm going to search that, filter that, and we can see that's going to be, sorry, I need to use the filter radius. I have to mark it. And now we're going to see this is our list. Now, when you're using the filter radius, one thing that is nice, then if I want to come back, I can just change this, say, to 5 miles, go back to the map, refilter, and now I have the list for within 5 miles. Actually, I've got to select that again, 5 mile list. And now I have the list for 5 miles. With the filter radius, you can just change this, say, to half a mile. We can do a new filter, and then only get the list. So you can pretty dynamically begin to look at, particularly if you're looking at the filter radius, you can do several of those in a pretty quick timeline to look at different scenarios of data based on distance. And again, any of these that you select can then be exported either to Excel or they could be exported to a new GeoSync Go layer, which can then be used for other analysis or further filtering. Let's go back and restore our data. And we'll turn our layer off. And that concludes our webinar today on the search and filter tools that are available from the GeoSync Go desktop. As always, if you have questions or there's other topics, then you can contact us through the website or your technical support contact and let us know if there's other topics that you would like for us to do. Thanks for attending our webinar today.